Okay, so do you know enough math to understand the problem? Well, hopefully you do, and better yet, hopefully you know how to solve the problem because we are dealing with an exclamation point behind these numbers. It seems like this is an unusual symbol to have in a math problem, but some of you might be saying, I know what this means, Mr. YouTube Math Man. What this means is that you're going to say these numbers really loud, like 5 minus 4 over 3. Well, that is a good joke. And if you are saying, well, that's no joke because this is what this means. Well, indeed, if you have the word help, right, we're talking about the English language here or any language, and you have an exclamation point behind it, this means that, hey, we're really emphasizing this. You're kind of yelling this out. But what does this symbol mean here? An exclamation point when it comes to mathematics. Well, that's what this problem is all about. All right, so this is a multiple choice question, and let's take a look at our answer choices here. So A is 1/3 with an exclamation point behind it. B is 5 over 4. C is a 3 with an exclamation point behind it. D is 16, and E is 0. All right, now feel free to use your calculator. Now, I'm going to say try not to use your calculator because this is easy to do without the aid of a calculator. But even if you are using a calculator, a lot of you will not know where to find this function on your calculator. But either way, if you have the right answer, put that into the comment section. I'll show you the correct solution in just 1 second. Then, of course, I'm going to tell you what this means. In mathematics, this is very important. And if you've never seen this before, this is not that difficult, but it's a very important function in mathematics. But we'll get to all this in just 1 second. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And if you need help learning math, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, or if you just enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. All right, so what can this possibly mean? Well, it's hard to do this problem if you don't understand what this symbol is, but there are some pretty good numbers here for you to at least take a guess. But let's take a look at the right answer. The correct answer here is D16. All right, now if you got this right, you definitely get a happy face, an A plus, a 100%, and a certificate of excellence because you appear to be a certified professional expert in the area of factorials. Okay, and this little symbol right here is what we call a factorial in mathematics. This is an extremely important function and concept, especially as you get into things like probability and statistics. Okay, so for some of you might be saying, I've never seen this before. Well, no big deal. Again, this is not that difficult, and I'm going to go ahead and get into the solution right now. All right, so for those of you that just took a guess, you're like, I don't understand, Mr. YouTube Math, and I've never seen this symbol in math. Well, take a guess, right? You should always guess on a math quiz, test, as long as you're not being penalized for a wrong answer. So some of you might be saying, well, let's see here, 5 minus 4, maybe this is like a 1 in the numerator, then we have a 3 down here. Maybe it's like a 1/3 factorial. So this seems logical, but in fact, it's the wrong answer. But at least you took a guess because the correct answer is 16. So you're not going to be able to really do this problem unless you understand this symbol, which is called the factorial symbol or the factorial function. So let's go ahead and define that right now. This is super easy. So again, we're talking about something called factorial. Now, the best way to understand what a factorial is just to look at a simple example. All right, so this right here, we have 5 with an exclamation point behind it. In mathematics, this exclamation point is a factorial. So what we're looking at right here is 5 factorial, and it means take the number 5 and just start decreasing by 1, all right? So we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're going to multiply all these numbers. So it's basically 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. That's the definition of 5 factorial, okay? If you had 3 factorial, that would be 3 times 2 times 1. It's no more complex than that, and of course, we just have to do all this multiplication. So 5 times 4 is 20, 20 times 3 is 60, 60 times 2 is 120. So 5 factorial is equal to 120. Now, for those of you that do have a scientific calculator or a graphing calculator, you're going to have to go into the various functions. If you're dealing with like a TI-84, TI-83, you're going to have to go into the math function, if my memory serves me correct. And then you're going to have to go up into the probability navigation menu, and then you're going to have to go down and find that factorial. So on most calculators, it's not going to be so easy or direct to locate the factorial function. But, again, if you are taking any sort of like algebra, first year algebra, college algebra, you're definitely going to have to be aware where to find this function on your scientific calculator. But if you don't have the function, you can simply just do the multiplication, right? So 5 factorial is equal to this, which is 120. Now we need to define this right here, 0 factorial. Okay, so the definition of 0 factorial is equal to 1. It's not 0. Okay, so this will come up, and you got to remember that, right? So 0 factorial is equal to 1, and then of course any number, the value of any number, non-zero number factorial is going to be this. All right, so this is a fast review or just a quick introduction to factorials, excuse me. So let's go ahead and get to this. There's a lot more about factorials, but if you understand this part of what a factorial is, then we should be able to solve this problem, pretty easily, right? Because here we have 5 factorial. Now, I just told you what 5 factorial is equal to. It's 120. Now, 4 factorial, you should be able to calculate, right? So that's 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 3 factorial is what? 3 times 2 times 1. So we could just go ahead and get values for this entire thing and calculate the final value. But this is one approach. I'm going to show you this method and another method that's a little bit more sophisticated, but one that you're going to have to really take when you actually study factorials at a higher level of math, which is like Algebra 2, college algebra, any type of math that deals with probability and statistics or combinations and permutations, all right? So if you're like, boy, that sounds like, super advanced, well, it's not that difficult. And for those of you that are planning on taking any math beyond algebra, or maybe even in some algebra courses, this is something you're definitely going to run into. So let's go and do this problem here. So 5 factorial, 4 factorial, and 3 factorial. Let's get the values here, right? So 5 factorial, we know that's 120. 4 factorial is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which of course is 24, right? So we have 12 times 2 is 24, and then 3 factorial is 3 times 2 times 1, which is 6. All right, so all we have to do is substitute these values into the problem like this. So 5 factorial is 120, 4 factorial is 24, 3 factorial is 6, and then we're just going to simplify this lovely fraction here. So we have 120 minus 24 is 96. 96 divided by 6 is 16. All right, so this is a perfectly fine method and approach to handle this factorial situation. But there's another approach, because when you're dealing with factorials, you don't want to calculate out the value of factorials because they grow exponentially, right? So in other words, if you have like 12 factorial, this is going to be a huge number. So you don't want to be, actually getting these values and doing this kind of simple math. But let's go ahead and take a look at this second method. But before we do that, we need to look at this, and that is an invitation to support this channel, okay? This channel is all about getting every single person out there that wants to learn math to improve in mathematics, because there's nobody watching this video that cannot be successful in math, all right? There can't be successful in math. Hopefully I said that right, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say is oftentimes, some people are saying, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I'm only capable of like just basic math. That's it, because my brain doesn't work any better than that. So don't try to teach me algebra or anything else like that. Don't put these false kind of ceilings on your ability to learn whatever, okay? If you want to learn calculus and all you know right now is just like basic math, you can absolutely learn calculus, but it is a journey. So unless you're willing to kind of go down that journey and just take it one step at a time and put the time and effort and practice in, which of course requires discipline, you're going to be frustrated, right? But it doesn't mean that you cannot learn this stuff. So if you're trying to learn math in a very quick, fast way, like, hey, you know what? I don't have much time to teach you math, man. I got only 10 minutes for you to teach me algebra. Well, listen, I can't help you, right? But I can help you understand, truly comprehend these concepts, but it's going to take some time. So if you like my style of instruction, check out my full main math courses. You'll find links to those in the description of this video. And if you want to learn more about factorial at a higher level, check out like my pre-calculus course, right? My pre-calculus course. Yes, that's an advanced course, but actually I do teach factorial, probability and statistics and other courses as well. But this is a particular course for that for those of you that need to really understand probability and statistics, permutations and combinations. That's the course you want to check out. All right, so let's get back to this problem, because I'm going to show you some stuff that we can do with factorials. And again, let's suppose we didn't have our calculator available, okay? So you're like, oh, there's no calculators here. So I really don't want to multiply, let's say like 9 factorial. We would actually have to go 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Nobody really wants to sit around and do all this multiplication. And that's just 9 factorial. Imagine if the question is like 19 factorial. So we need to work really smart when it comes to factorial. And you can do a lot of this without the aid of a calculator. All right, so in this particular problem, we have a difference up here in the numerator. We're looking at a fraction, and the smart thing to do here is to factor out the greatest common factor. Now, this may not seem so obvious here, but the greatest common factor is 4 factorial. All right, so 4 factorial. If I take this 4 factorial and I factor out a 4 factorial in this expression, if I take 4 factorial and I multiply it by 5, what do I have? Well, 4 factorial is what? 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And if I multiply this thing here by 5, I have 5 factorial. So 4 factorial times 5 is indeed 5 factorial. And then 4 factorial times 1 is 4 factorial. So you can factor out factorials. It's something you definitely want to do. All right, so here is our problem. I'm going to factor out again the greatest common factor, which is 4 factorial. So we have 4 factorial times 5 minus 1, which of course is 4. And let's go to continue to simplify this problem. All right, so 5 minus 1 is 4. So now we have 4 factorial times 4 over 3 factorial. Now, some of you can say, oh, I see what's going on here, because you can just list out the factors here, right? So that's 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 times a 4 over 3 factorial, which is 3 times 2 times 1. And you just can do a bunch of cross-canceling, and you end up with 4 times 4. Indeed, you can do that, but you can also look at these factorials in different ways. And you need to kind of get used to doing this because with larger factorials, again, you're not going to want to list out all the factors. So 4 factorial, you need to think to yourself, this is the same thing as 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, but this is really the same thing as 4 times 3 factorial. That's always the case. In other words, if you have 19 factorial, that's equal to 19 times 18 factorial. Okay, you understand the pattern here? So 4 factorial is the same thing as 4 times 3 factorial. And this is going to come in really handy, because here I have 4 factorial times 4 over 3. Well, I have a 3 factorial down here. If I can write this 4 factorial as 4 times 3 factorial, now I have 3 factorials here that I can cross cancel. And I'm just left with 4 times 4, which of course is 16. All right, so hopefully this was an interesting little video. And more importantly, hopefully you actually learned something about factorial. And this comes into play again for problems that deal with probability and statistics, something called permutations and combinations. And basically it's like, and here, let me show you the notation real quick. It's like NCR and PR. We're talking about combinations of permutations. You can kind of think of these type of problems as, let me see here, I'm just trying to think of an example. How many different combinations can you have given so many different things, right? These are basically what we're talking about here is counting problems. So you might be saying, I know how to count, Mr. D2 Math Man. Well, counting actually becomes much more sophisticated when you're dealing with combinations of things and permutations of things. So that's why if you're interested in learning more about this topic, check out my pre-calculus course. All right, so with all that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your math adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.